Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, StarCraft 2 fans, to the Alienware Arena. Today, we don't have Clutch and Frodon. It is going to be instead myself, Katu, and Nathanius doing the cast. Nathanius, how you doing?
I'm doing quite fine today, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. Woke up this morning, got in like 4 hours of good StarCraft 2 time, and then was asked to cast an awesome event. So, I don't know. That seems pretty good to me. So we're going to get things going here as quickly as possible. We got 5 best of 3s to go through here, and it is, of course, the Week 6 coverage here. And we're going to be starting with Rowrin versus Prplppleatr. Sounds like a scary name.
Yeah, I mean, especially as a Zerg, Prplppleatr, you kind of get that feeling where it's like, man, I hope I'm not the Purple Terran, right? It's not terribly notable players, but I've heard of Prplppleatr before, and these players are fairly highly ranked in the Alienware tournament, so this should be a good game.
Yeah, in fact, Prplppleatr is actually ranked 7th right now in the ladder. And for those of you who aren't maybe familiar, the Pro-Am Challenge does work on a ladder basis. And we've got Prplppleatr after 5 weeks in 7th place. And we've got Rowrin in 26th place. So they're definitely not too bad, and we should see a solid game. Now, without any further ado, we're going to hop right into Game 1.
You are watching the Alienware Arena.
All right, welcome to Entombed Valley, everyone. You'll quickly notice that this is the Blizzard version, so that means that all spawn locations are possible. And spawning in the top right, we've got our purple Zerg, very apt to his name, Prplppleatr. And Nathanius, you're a Terran player. Who do we got in the top left?
Well, spawning in the top left position, we have the green Terran. His name is Rowrin.
Rowrin. That's a word that you got to really wrap your mouth around. The WR sound there happening. But the little TVZ in these positions going to be pretty darn tricky for a Zerg player. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier, the Blizzard map version here, giving the very close rush distance for the Terran towards that Zerg's 3rd base. And you know, we're only at the minute-and-a-half mark, but already, just with the spawning positions, you can kind of feel that this game is going to be all about that 3rd base.
Yeah, I find it kind of interesting sending the SCV immediately after the supply depot just so you can get the fastest possible information. And the Overlord going across the map will see everything, but Rowrin, he's going to have a lot of opportunities for aggression based on the close spawns, especially with the exposed 3rd of Prplppleatr.
And he's scouting him right away. Now, that quick scout is unconventional for a Terran player, but then again, you have to remember that there's 3 possible spawn locations on this version of the map, and there he goes. He's actually even going to get to block his opponent's hatchery, and that is just horribly annoying, to say the least, for a Zerg player. Prplppleatr already forced to throw down a spawning pool here a little earlier than he would have liked, and yeah, things not starting too good here for him.
Yeah, that's pretty demoralizing, especially considering the map spawns. Especially, Rowrin's actually gone for a gas right after his barracks, so we could see Reactor Hellion play or maybe really fast Banshee. And with the close spawns against just lanes, as it's going to be for a little bit now, this could get a little difficult for Prplppleatr.
And I don't want to stack things up against him so soon, but on top of that, it looks like we got Prplppleatr scouting cross positions first, and then scouting the bottom right. So he's going to get to his opponent's base here, absolute last. He's got an Overlord there that's going to spot the barracks, but that's about all he's going to see. He sees a Marine, doesn't know if there's a gas follow-up or a command center, and of course, we see a second barracks going up here. That's a little unconventional here for a second refinery, and looks like we're going to have a little bit of Marine pressure here early on.
Yeah, this is a little out of the ordinary. Getting the early reactor, probably going to get a tech lab, I would assume afterwards, some sort of 2 racks play. And now we have a factory going down, so it looks like this is going to be a 2 racks with Hellion.
Yeah, probably like Marauder Hellion pressure here coming up.
Yeah. I think some kind of one-base Marauder Hellion, and it can be really effective given the spawns. One-base Marauder Hellion, obviously a little easier to scout if you see that your opponent doesn't expand, gives Prplppleatr more of a heads up that something really crazy is coming. But until he knows exactly what it is, it's not like, well, he's going to be difficult to prepare for it because the follow-up for defending Banshees is very different to defending Marauder Hellion.
Absolutely, and we do see he's getting a couple of queens right now, so that is something that will help him defend against this. Is going to bring him up to 3 queens, of course, help him at least defend against the early harassment of the Hellions. But there we see the second tech lab going down, and most importantly, when you're going for these all-ins, it's those patrolling Marines on the right-hand side there of Rowrin's base, completely zoning out the scouting of Prplppleatr, and so he's not going to have much of a warning of what's coming here, and it's all going to come down to how safe he plays. And for now, he's getting that metabolic boost, but he's basically stopped mining gas, so I don't see him having any roaches or banelings ready to hold off this pressure.
Yeah, and it's really tricky part is because you open with the Marauders, those roaches can only do so much. I find it interesting, Rowrin hasn't gone for stand, he's going for concussive shell first, so possibly wants to make a really early push with this. But honestly, for the Zerg player, against a 1-base Marauder Hellion, you only need about maybe 2-3 spine crawlers, and with this, you clean it up easy peasy. So I'm really curious to see what kind of timing Rowrin goes with. Still doesn't have stim researching and continuing to queue Marauders instead.
Yeah, and he's now rallying the Hellions in his base as well, going to hide those, just showing 4. So showing 4 Hellions, that does not put a Zerg on his guard whatsoever. That is as standard could be. The Queens here and the Zerglings dancing back and forth with those Hellions. Right now, the Hellions mostly just trying to stop that creep spread to make sure that he can engage as favorably as possible when the time does come. And here we go. We got 5 SCVs getting pulled, total of 5 Marauders, couple extra Hellions here coming forward as well. And there we see Evolution Chambers going down, a Spine Crawler, and a Roach one. So there's going to be almost a full wall off here. And Prplppleatr just getting ready for just about anything with this play. And he's got those extra queens with the energy for transfuses, and I think it's going to come down to this.
Yeah, honestly, I think it might have been a little bit of a late read by Prplppleatr. His Spine Crawler shouldn't finish in time for this hit, and he really doesn't have that many units at all to help deal with this. And this choke could actually work against him, breaking down the wall, because the Zerglings would have to run through a very tight space, but the Hellions would get him, and he's going to approach now. The Spine Crawler is going to fall, will not be able to finish. Transfuse going down on the Queens, but there does not appear to be anywhere near enough here to hold this push. And the drones are going to be pulled off of the line to try to hold this, but I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, not even close. I saw the Spine Crawler going down, and in my mind's math, I'm like, okay, his opponent's pushing out the Spine Crawler's down, so it should finish about the time he gets there. But this is such close rush distance, is really working here for Rowrin. And we see Prplppleatr not giving up just yet, trying to do what he can, but he's already lost a total of 14 drones here, and the army of Rowrin is continuing to push through. A couple of roaches pop out, but the Marauders, of course, extremely effective against those. And Prplppleatr here down in supply against his opponent, and doesn't look like he'll be able to stop.
With reinforcements on the way, it's really not looking good. I mean, that's what I said. Like, the roaches aren't really going to be able to do too much with all these Marauders here, and yeah, that's going to be GG.
GG. So quick first game there between Prplppleatr and Rowrin, gonna bring Rowrin up 1-0. Gonna give the map choice though to Prplppleatr, and we'll see what he chooses. Of course, for those of you again unfamiliar with the Alienware arena, the maps are as follows. It's Ohana, GSL Whirlwind, Cloud Kingdom, Daybreak, Metropolis. Of course, Entombed Valley was the starting map for Week 6, and Antigua Shipyards. So he's going to have a nice choice there, and hopefully he'll pick a map with a bit larger rush distances, or maybe even just, I guess, a more determined opposing base, like spawning location, I mean, because he really couldn't scout at all his opponent's base, and so it really makes it tough to be prepared.
Yeah. The close spawns really made it difficult for Prplppleatr to choose the right build, I think.
Yeah, and to scout. He had his one Overlord in position to scout from the right side, but it takes so long to send an Overlord all the way around to scout from the left. Now, with that being said, guys, we got a lot of games to get through today, so we're going to head right into Game 2 here between Rowrin and Prplppleatr.
You are watching the Alienware Arena.
So as we load in, we see that Prplppleatr has chosen Ohana. It is the ladder edition, so there won't be any supply depots at the bottom of the ramp. Just a slight note. But here he is in the bottom right, Prplppleatr.
And spawning in the top left position, went for the really aggressive one base all-in last game. He's a green Terran, he's Rowrin.
Rowrin. It's such a honestly,
love that name.
Viewers, please at home just like look at how it's written and then decide how you want to pronounce it and then go for it. It's fun. I don't know. I get a joy of saying that name, that word. And we'll see what he's got here in the store. Of course, Ohana, another map that it isn't too easy to get a scout on. There's no dead space around the main bases, really. So that's going to be tricky here for Prplppleatr. But on the upside, he does know where his opponent spawns. And just because of the last game, he might play a little bit safer here this time, Nathanius.
Yeah, I think it's completely possible that we'll get some of that, but honestly, the rush distance being quite a bit longer than close spawns in Tomb Valley, this really isn't the map to do an all-in on, I think, for Rowrin. It's a very good map for being safe and economical, but as we can see, Prplppleatr send the drone out very early to check the proxy locations for any sort of early barracks play, and he really just doesn't want to get caught off guard by anything again this game.
Ooh. And the SCV there, perfectly timed by Rowrin, does block the hatchery. But you're right, if it was going to be an all-in, it would have definitely been a 2-racks, and Prplppleatr scouted for that. Now the SCV throwing down that engineering bay, going to be delaying this hatchery, and this is something that's been coming up again. Was it Flash who went for a engineering bay in the SPL this past weekend? So yeah, it's really interesting how that was popular for I think like only a month, and then it faded away earlier on in StarCraft 2, and now we see it here making a resurgence. And as a Zerg player myself, I'll tell you, Nathanius, this is like the most annoying thing in the world.
I could completely imagine. Yeah, I believe it was Flash versus Zenio in the Pro League, and I've been tampering this with quite a bit myself, and you can actually force a lot of interesting reactions. We can see Prplppleatr has taken his gas, doesn't have well, the engineer bay actually canceled before any lings are even made, so that's kind of interesting. But you can kind of force Zerg into like these positions where they want to maybe go for a counter Baneling or a counter Roach, and as we can see, the factory is already coming down, going for another aggressive play again. But maybe that's exactly what Rowrin wants to happen, going for the really fast Hellions. If there's any kind of counter pressure brought on by Prplppleatr, it's not going to work at all, and Rowrin will get way ahead.
Well, it depends what kind of pressure. We do see Prplppleatr throwing down that really quick Roach Warren here, and judging by how much gas he's mining, he's probably going to go for somewhere around 8 to 10 Roaches here, and that's actually something that could be really effective against these early Hellions. It's going to come down to Rowrin's follow-up. But I've got to say, I love that engineering bay cancel, because Prplppleatr pulls back his drone, Rowrin sees it, and then he says, you know what? I can cancel now, get that factory down a little bit quicker, and that's exactly what he did. So the Zergans here scouting at the front, they see the reactor. Did he see the factory? I can only assume he did. Yes, he did. So that's actually a huge green light here for Prplppleatr, and looks like he's actually adding on a Baneling nest. Interesting.
Yeah, this is looking to be a little bit tricky. I'm really curious as to what Rowrin's follow-up will be. I think he's going for a standard reactor Hellion expand, pretty much a pre-patch 1.4 build before the Queen's got that buff. But we do have a tech lab going down and no starport on the field, so he may switch into Marauders for defense, which would be the ideal thing to do in this situation with the Baneling nest and Roach Warren coming in. But I'm curious to see what his next step is going to be.
Well, he did get the scan down, and he spotted the Roach Horn, he spotted that Baneling nest, and so that's why I think you're absolutely right. We're definitely going to see some Marauders coming, but he hasn't gone for them yet. The Hellions are out on the map. They see a couple of Roaches here pushing across, and immediately that Marauder does get started up here, and we even see a bunker going down on that low ground. This is definitely going to be tricky to hold. Some Zerglings are following up, but Prplppleatr going for 4 drones now, so it looks like his opponent has scouted his play, and he's decided, you know what, I'm just going to do what I can with these Roaches, go back to macro, and I guess it's his turn now to be annoying to his opponent, because dealing with Roaches when you have mostly Hellions isn't really the funnest thing to do.
And this is a really awkward position to be in. Roaches are going to step up. The bunker, now the bunker does get the Marauder, but I mean, it looks like he's just going to try to walk past and just force the ramp. I like the SCVs blocking the pathing. He'll do a good amount of damage to these Roaches, but I think going up the ramp, he's just going to lose most of these and not really kill anything of use. And all the roaches are going to just die. And he honestly only manages to kill one worker in that whole exchange.
Yeah, but he does end up killing quite a few Hellions, so back home he's safe to continue droning here. And the Roaches and Zerglings are continuing to put on some pressure there. The bunker has gone down. Of course, the last Roach there will get cleaned up, but even though he only killed one worker there, Rowrin obviously not able to move his command center down. He actually forgot to turn it into an orbital there for quite a while. I'm not sure if he was just, if he canceled it even, because I think I saw it going earlier, but I think he canceled it maybe because he wanted to build the bunker, get an extra Marauder going, so that he could hold off this pressure. And now it's 32 drones to 21 SCVs. So, you know, despite not killing any workers there, Prplppleatr still in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I actually hadn't even noticed that. That's a really tricky situation at the end. I'm not. Okay, we have another barracks coming down. So, and then we also
Hold
have
that thought. Sorry, Nathanius. We do have 3 Hellions here running up into the main base, trying to get some drones. Drones getting pulled by Prplppleatr. The Queens here trying to go to work. Some nice splitting happening. So far, they haven't been able to kill too many, but that might end quickly. There they go, getting some good hits in, but unfortunately focusing the wrong drones. And in the end here, we still... Oh, wow. Actually, there was more drones in those clumps than I thought. 9 drones here killed so far, Nathanius.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a pretty good exchange. You know, throwing the Hellions away. He knows his opponent has a Roach Warren, so you're not gonna make some really big Hellion push, you know, without it being seen and doing a crazy amount of damage. But using the units to do what he could with them was a very efficient way of going about this. And it looks like he's going to be going for a bio transition. We have a medevac on the field. He's swapping the barracks onto the reactor, so going into a standard, probably Marine tank follow-up for Rowrin. And we do have the lair completed for Prplppleatr.
Yeah, that lair completed here is going to be extremely important, and there's the Spire going down. So right now we have Rowrin, who's actually banking a lot of this game on a Marine Stim medevac timing, where you can push out, do as much damage as you can, and whenever there's too many Zerglings, Banelings, Roaches, etc., threatening your Marines, you just pick up and leave. But Prplppleatr, with that Spire, going to be able to get some mutas out at about the same time the attack hits. And so all of a sudden, Rowrin won't have that disengage possibility left open to him, and he might lose all of his units, and unfortunately, obviously it's still a ways off here, Nathanius, but I really don't think this play is going to work out at all.
It's kind of tricky when you're looking at these types of things, because we don't have siege tech on the way. We don't even have a tech lab on the factory. There's no real big any real big commitment being made towards any tech path. SCV production for Rowrin's actually been a little bit slow. Still only 33 SCVs at 11 minutes. Honestly, I think Prplppleatr is making the right choice, just going for the third. He's got an Overseer in Rowrin's base, kind of sees everything that's going on. I think when he sees that there's no siege tech at all, maybe that could be a green light for some sort of pressure to be made with Banelings and Zerglings once his Spire finishes, which it has. But I'm not entirely sure. It may actually spot this medevac leaving, and it does.
Well, yeah, the Overseer spots the medevac, and now another Overlord's going to spot. So even if he didn't see it in that little 2-second window there, he'll definitely see it this time around. 6 mutas are on the way. And again, the third base is up for Prplppleatr, and this is a build that's been around for a long time, and it's designed to shut down that third base. And I just don't think Rowrin's going to be able to do it. So meanwhile, he won't really be able to expand. Prplppleatr is going to take all of the map control. The rocks are going down just in time here. We see that one spine car there will go down, but not a big deal. The mutas just hatched, and now the Zerglings are going to clean up one medevac and then move to defend that third base, which is actually starting to get quite low, Nathanius. We might see Rowrin get it.
Yeah, I mean, he actually was caught off guard by Rowrin sending a couple of Marines to clear the creep tumors. The Mutalisks will pick that off, but it looks like it's going to come at the cost of losing the third base. There's no Queen around to transfuse. The Lings show up, but too late. The third base does go down, and this has already been a very effective trade for Rowrin.
Oh, yeah. That is a great move there for Rowrin, and, I mean, I really didn't expect it to work out, but using those extra Marines at the front to clear up creep really did pull away the attention of Prplppleatr. And now the medevac actually is still alive. The Muta's trying to find it here, eventually queuing through. They will find it. But I mean,
Fun little game of hide and go seek.
yeah, unfortunately one that Rowrin will end up losing. But Rowrin, he's got his third command center up. It's not an orbital just yet. It's kind of just sitting there. He might be choosing to turn into a planetary fortress at that third. But Prplppleatr, he's got a Zergling there, and he's got this highly mobile force. And since he doesn't have a third hatch, he's actually been able to invest a lot more into his army here. And he should be able to shut down that third base here as Rowrin tries to take it.
Yeah, honestly, with a good lean count, he doesn't have any tanks on the field yet. He hasn't started siege mode. You can't just play Bio Medevac versus Ling Bling Muta unless you have an infinite number of Marines and flash-like splits. But we do have a drop going into the main base. He's going to be able to pick off a couple of drones. The Zerglings miss him, and he's got a nice little choke point, so we'll be able to maximize the amount of damage. Focuses down drones on gas, but ultimately drop not doing terrible amount of damage as we have Pathogen Glands finishing. And is that another Baneling Nest?
Yep, a secondary Baneling Nest there, just in case. Don't worry about it. And Rowrin pushing forward there, clearing up a bit of creep. But that actually does end up doing more than you'd expect. And he's continuing to push out again, like I said, clearing that creep. And it's keeping Prplppleatr busy. So the planetary fortress here is getting started. And Prplppleatr really isn't planning on moving out here for a while. So looks like we're going to have two players here on 3 bases. Again, like you've mentioned, no siege tanks just yet here for Rowrin. And once these infestors hit the field here, Nathanius, I mean, that's really just the last nail in the tech coffin, if you will here. Prplppleatr has the exact unit composition he wants, and Rowrin, the only thing he's got going for him here is the mobility of his army. He's really going to have to just pick apart his opponent and attack multiple fronts at once and hope that the control just isn't there from Prplppleatr.
Yeah, it's a really difficult situation to be in, especially with getting the late combat shields Rowrin has. He doesn't really have a ton of units. The supply, it's like, okay, well, Zerg should be up a little bit, but in any straight-up engagement with Infestors and Banelings, there's absolutely no way you're just going to win a fight with mostly Marines and barely any Marauders. The medevac count is good, but it's really not what Rowrin needs. His production, only 4 barracks. Well, okay, he has the two extra in his natural, but without tank production, this really doesn't give you any way of zoning out Infestors or Banelings.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's got his +1 vehicle weapons on the way, but still hasn't started any siege tank production. So once he does decide to start that siege tank production, he'll be in a decent position. But until then here, again, he's got to start doing some multi-pronged attacks. And we do see some medevacs moving out, one along the left-hand side of the map, another one along the right-hand side. Looks like the one on the right-hand side here has been spotted. The Mutas are moving into position and will intercept it here. We're going to have to see Rowrin unload, and that's exactly what he ends up doing. The other one gets spotted by an Overlord here, and we're going to have a lot more action here coming forward, Nathanius.
Yeah, this is looking pretty intense. The drop on the right side manages to unload, push those Mutalisks away, but the one on the left side, no reaction going to actually units being moved away, but there is a Spine Crawler here, so I'm not entirely sure how much damage it'll be able to do. All the Zerglings being sent to clean up the right side drop, but Shop's going to be moving in.
Yeah, not only the drop, but also the main army. Rowrin here is pushing forward. There's, of course, tons of Zerglings, Banelings. The Infestors are there as well. The main army does pre-split for Rowrin. In goes Prplppleatr, and he is going to clean up that army so quickly. Meanwhile, at the third base, the Spine Crawler does get focus fire down as well, and some drones are starting to fall, but Prplppleatr does pull them back in time. He only ended up losing about 7 or 8 drones there. Now he'll be able to clean up the rest of Rowrin's army, and now we see Prplppleatr here in a really strong position because Rowrin didn't spot the 4th base, so his 4th is going up. His opponent here getting a 4th orbital, but the Muta is actually doing quite a bit of damage there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, trying to make that engagement, especially on creep. He doesn't have Baneling speed, but he doesn't really need it in that situation. The 4th base is done, the Greater Spire is about to finish, and we should be seeing some Corruptors on the way. And, I mean, Rowrin had a brief period of time where he was ahead in upgrades. He was 2-1. But at this point, his upgrade advantage is mostly gone, and I'm very scared to see what's going to happen in the next couple of minutes coming out of Prplppleatr.
Yeah, it's definitely not over yet, but looking at the supplies, it looks like Rowrin has a lot more than he actually does. He's got 100 supply right now, but he's really only got 25 Marines. That's his standing army. He's got 8 medevacs, so 16 supply is in those medevacs right now, and of course the rest in those SCVs, so he's in a pretty tight position right now. He is getting 3 Starports, though, starting up that Viking production, so perhaps with an overcommittal towards that Broodlord Corruptor play from Prplppleatr, maybe Rowrin can can trade effectively. But considering the infestors, their high energy count, I don't know. It is. You're right. It is definitely looking dicey.
I think it's going to be just a little too late. I mean, he's got a nice supply lead. He has all of the tech he wants. He has all the upgrades he wants. He's following up all of his upgrades with the proper ones. And we do have a couple drops coming in on the right side towards the 5th base, but there's 3 spine crawlers and a spore. I don't think this is going to be able to do terribly much damage. He's going to fly right over it, and the Broodlords are complete.
Yeah, there goes down one medevac. The second medevac here going to fall to the Spore Crawler as well. Overall, he didn't kill a single drone there, but he does manage to focus fire down the hatchery. Meanwhile, there is another 4th base up for Prplppleatr on the left-hand side, so he's going to be able to just transfer all those drones right away. And as you just mentioned, the Broodlords are up, and I mean, for one, they're going to be extremely strong defensively here. Just a couple of Broodlords at each base could be effective, but likelier than not, we'll see him here start to pressure his opponent, especially if Rowrin decides to take a 4th base. That'll be the alarm bell there, I think, for Prplppleatr.
Yeah, I really think right now is Prplppleatr's best time to go for it. There's a lot of Vikings being made, but good fungal growths can help with that, and the Baneling count should be able to deal with all of the ground forces. As I said, there are not a single siege tank or siege mode has been researched, but we have +1 vehicle weapons. So I found that kind of interesting, but I really feel like Prplppleatr maybe get a couple more infestors or wait for these corruptors to finish and then just go for it.
Yeah, it's tough too because he doesn't know exactly how strong his opponent's army is right now. And one key thing that people tend to overlook about Broodlords is that they're extremely slow. And once you engage, you can't really pull back. So if you end up in an engagement that isn't necessarily favorable, then you're going to lose a lot of really expensive units. So Prplppleatr here just taking his time. He just maxed out to 200. The last corruptor's popping out. And now that he's maxed out, now he's going to decide to go for it. And we're going to have the last engagement here happening. Nathanius, we've got the Marines and Marauders trying to split. Fungals going down all over the place. The Corruptors are pushing forward to deal with the Vikings. There's a huge Viking count. No Fungals going down on them just yet. And we need to see Prplppleatr getting those Fungals down or the Vikings will overpower. There's one of them finally landing. He needs to keep hitting them though, because his Corruptor count's down to just 4. 2 of them did just rally forward. He's rallying with tons of Zerglings though, and
there's plenty of Infesto energy left. I feel like, and there's no ground forces yet, so he needs to build up the rest of his army, but Infested Terrans are going down, and these Vikings should fall. The Planetary at the 3rd will may be able to hold out for a little while, but this engagement I think could have gone worse for Rowrin, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to hold him off.
I'm not sure either. My StarCraft 2 client actually just crashed, so you're going to have to keep going, Nathanius.
Oh man, alright, so we have, well, the Broodlords are pushing up the front side. The natural base is pretty much just falling apart here. There's not enough being rallied out, not enough can be rallied out to really deal with this. More Infested Terrans. Now the anti-air for Prplppleatr has basically been overrun. Only a handful of Infested Terrans. The Vikings coming out might be able to clean up these Broodlords, but we do have the 5 base economy of Prplppleatr going to allow him to swarm through, running in, getting all of the production for Rowrin, and now he's parked over those barracks. Any Marines that come out will be immediately chewed up, and the Corruptor's managing to take out all of the Vikings, so it looks like Prplppleatr's basically got this in the bag, and that's GG.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I missed too much there. That engagement, of course, did go Prplppleatr's way, and he was able to just close it out. But the game, I feel, really came down to that push out from Rowrin, that he went for the Marine stim with medevac play. And even though he got his opponent's 3rd base, he wasn't able to conserve any of those units. The Mutalisks were able to clean everything up, and that basically restarted, or I guess wiped the slate clean for Rowrin's army. He had to restart from scratch and wasn't able to put any pressure for quite a while after that, which allowed Prplppleatr to really get that economy he wanted, the tech he wanted, and close it out. So we got a tied series here. Nathanius going into an ace match already. So yeah, I guess I did cover everything, Nathanius. So that's my fault. I should have left some analysis for you. But we'll hop here into the 3rd game, guys. It's the ace match between Rowrin and Prplppleatr here at the Alienware Arena Week 6.
watching the Alienware Arena.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, StarCraft 2 fans. We've got our ace match here on Antigua Shipyard, spawning in the top left position here on the Blizzard version of the map. It is Prplppleatr.
And spawning in the bottom left position of Antigua Shipyard, we have the slightly a bit more aggressive than typically seeing out of Terran players, going for a lot of these 13 gas builds. It is the green Terran, Rowrin.
And that's the magic of the constantly evolving meta right there, Nathanius. Zerg players getting greedier and greedier, as Terrans for a long time have been getting themselves greedier and greedier. We've seen a lot of command center first plays even, and so Rowrin now taking it a step back, trying to get aggressive again and try to take advantage of his opponent's greediness. Worked in game 1, game 2 not so well, and we'll see here on Antigua how it does play out.
Yeah, and honestly, I actually really like the switches back into aggression, because these days you have a lot of Zergs that are trying to punish the triple orbital builds, or trying to punish the really fast Hellion Banshee builds. You get a lot of early Ling Roach or Ling Bane, or even just as Speedling, as you see players like Life do. So opening aggressively as Terran kind of shuts down those options for Zerg and kind of allows you to get ahead, even if maybe bring things open if your Zerg opponent isn't aggressive. So it's been really interesting seeing Rowrin go for these kinds of strategies every game.
Absolutely. And I mean, Rowrin, this guy, he just is good at rolling dice, because he was able to just find his opponent's base first once again. And in the SCV, always annoying, blocking that drone from getting a hatchery down, and now even going for that engineering bay play once again, Nathanius. So Prplppleatr here just never able to actually go through with any of his planned builds, because any build for a Zerg player is always going to start with a 15 hatch in this matchup, and Rowrin just trying to throw him off his game here as best he can.
Yeah, this has got to be incredibly annoying for Prplppleatr. Every single game, even both maps where there were four spawns, Rowrin goes straight to the right one, immediately gets down that engineering bay. Maybe not in game 1, but just really being terribly annoying. And he's going to come here. The Overlord should get away, but we do have the 13 gas, and Prplppleatr didn't actually see that. So it's going to be... I'm really curious to see what he's going to go for this game. Is he just going to go Hellions into Expand, or Alien Marauder, or maybe even Hellion Banshee?
Well, he might have spotted the SCVs actually bringing the gas back to the orbital command. I'm not sure. Well, he definitely spotted it, and I'm not sure if he noticed it, though. So we'll have to see here his reaction. The engineering bay, though, is still there for Rowrin, and Prplppleatr, with his first Zerglings finally out here, going to start thinking about getting that hatchery up. But the cool kind of synergy that happens between that engineering bay play and the followed-up reactored Hellions is that you really can't get a spine crawler up in time to deal with the first Hellions, and you really have to defend with Zerglings off of creep because the hatchery isn't done. The spine crawler at best is going to be on the high ground trying to transfer to the low ground as those Hellions arrive. So you've got a slow queen, slow Zerglings, and that can make those Hellions all the more effective. Yeah,
it can really make life difficult for your opponent. Now, starting to bank a little bit of minerals here. Should be seeing, there's going to be a command center follow-up from Rowrin, and Hellion production is going to begin. I'm curious to see what he's going to do with that there, if he's going to move into Starport play, or if he's going to go back into Marauders, or if he's got any new tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, for now, the safety tech lab, which of course does leave the path open for both, and he's just going to wait until his Hellions pop out and start giving him a little bit more of that information he needs to really decide what he's going to do. So we do have a Roach Warren going down once again, though, for Prplppleatr. It worked and served him well last game, and we'll see if he does put on that little 4-5 Roach pressure once again here in Game 3.
Yeah, and I really like just the general awareness of Prplppleatr. Has the Zergling on the third, just in case, has an Overlord parked nearby to put Creep on later. And his base coverage, his base vision is pretty solid. So I like the Creep Tumor on the high ground as well, kind of just making sure he can move down. And you see, as you said, that he wants to immediately get that Spine Crawler down, and he did. He does have his drone going to build one as soon as that hatchery finishes.
And it should be finishing his spine crawler, that is, around the time that those extra Hellions do show up. They might be able to sneak into the main base quickly if they really put the pedal to the metal. But meanwhile, back at home, we see Rowrin following up with 2 more barracks. He's got that stim on the way, and he's got the starport coming as well. So it still looks like a similar play to Ohana, where he's going to go for that kind of medevac stim pressure here to really try to shut down the third base. And we'll see what Prplppleatr can do here. The first piece, or the first step here in his plan, is going to be that roach pressure. It's going to be a lot stronger though than on Ohana here, Nathanius. 8 roaches on the way.
Yeah, this is actually going to be pretty big. We don't have any Marauders being produced either. I feel like if he gets enough units out, he should be able to spot it with the Hellions and maybe dance. The bunkers should be done in time this game, however, before the roaches hit. So I think he's going to be totally fine. The roaches, they haven't yet begun their march across the field yet. So Rowrin's got a bit of time to deal with this. He's got triple barracks production now. He doesn't really need Marauders at this point, as long as he just gets set up at the bunker.
Yeah, and he also needs to make sure to pull SCVs, but as you said, he's going to have time to set up here. The Hellions spotted immediately. He's starting to retreat. He actually might go for a counterattack with those Hellions. Nope, he just double checks to make sure the roaches are still coming. Does pull back. The roaches split up there a little bit quickly, and 4 of them will deal with the Hellions while 4 more do pressure at the front. There's already 7 Marines. There's the SCVs getting pulled off the line for Rowrin, and we see the roaches there just forced to pull back. 2 of the Hellions here going for a counterattack play, but between the Queens and Spine Crawlers, I don't expect too much damage to be done. And overall there, Prplppleatr wasn't able to do too much damage with that pressure. So it's tough to say here. Looking at the numbers, Nathanius, it's still 35 drones to 29 SCVs, despite not really doing any damage here.
I think that's actually pretty solid for Rowrin, though. You have the 2 mules, about four SCVs worth each, and the drone count. Okay, now it's starting to get a little bit higher, but I really wish Rowrin had where his Hellions were parked. If he was just a little bit further to the left, he would have been able to snag the drone going to build the third base, which I think would have been huge. But for now, it just looks like just a pretty standard follow-up. We do have a drop headed over to the third base, though. Stim is complete, so might be able to force a cancel, and it looks like he will. Those roaches cannot get there in time, I don't think.
Well, here they come. They're trying to engage the Marines, continue to focus down that hatchery, and it will get canceled. The drone, though, is still alive, so Prplppleatr going to get to restart that almost immediately. Now, looking at the production tab, we do have a Baneling nest on the way. The lair is done, but no Spire this time. So Rowrin's going to be able to really play with these medevacs for a heck of a lot longer. Still no Spire, no Infestation Pit even in play. There you go, finally an Infestation Pit just getting dropped down. But to keep it short, Rowrin here going to keep putting pressure, and he's over at the natural right now.
Yeah, and this is kind of like the cool thing you can do with these spawns is the drop to the third base is right there. Kind of interested to see if Prplppleatr is going to put creep on the third base of Rowrin, but I think this is kind of infestor play is kind of okay. Mutalisks, I mean, the distance to go and do harass is a little bit easier, but for defensive purposes, I guess this is okay. I'm interested to see if he's going to stick to pure bio again this game, or if he's going to go for any kind of mechanical play.
That's kind of the interesting thing about playing against bio is as far as the infestors go, they're a lot more effective in the engagements, but of course a lot less effective against drop play. Now with the Spore Crawler positioning here for Prplppleatr, that's kind of just a dead medevac in the water here, it seems. Rowrin probably won't be able to get any effectiveness done with those Marines, but he does have another group here and a medevac going to load up and go into the main base, and Prplppleatr here, most of his army at the front, might not be able to deal with this quite as effectively as he'd like.
Yeah, that's kind of, you can use that little landing pad. The little landing pad, and there's really nothing a Zerg player can do about that. I'd really love to see him swing the medevac from behind the natural over, to swing around behind where the Roach Warren is, but he's going to pop him here. Looks like he's going to be able to, barely misses getting the Queen, taking out some Zerglings, but overall, a little bit, I guess, pretty effective drop. Gets a Queen out of it, and,
Sorry to interrupt, but one thing I want to mention about drops in general, and actually it is a bit of a double-edged sword here, as we can see, it's something that people don't really mention. It's how it just occupies your opponent. And we see both players right now really banking a lot of resources. 1,300 minerals for Rowrin, 400 gas, and then for Prplppleatr, he had 800 of each. Of course, he just dumped that into a bunch of infestors and overlords. But really, it really makes you slip on your macro, this kind of drop play. Of course, Rowrin unfortunately slipping a bit more than his opponent, so it doesn't end up working out, but continue to try for that pressure here as his third orbital has finished up back at home.
Yeah, and as I stated before about the Overlord at the 30, actually, Rowrin sent Marines over. I mean, he would have been totally fine. A little bit of a misstep. It doesn't have combat shields even started yet, unfortunately. I really want to see him really amp his production up, being only on 5 racks, and I really want to see him get some tanks out this game. It's going to be really difficult to deal with these infestors.
Yeah, I completely do concur there, Nathanius, but he is building Marauders right now, and he's actually going straight into ship weapons with his armory, skipping that vehicle weapons this time around. So I don't think that you're going to get your wish here. I know it's December, I know Christmas is coming, but you're just not going to get, you're just getting a lump of coal this year, Nathanius, sorry.
I suppose it happens. I mean, going for faster Vikings can work on these map spawns just because the Zerg player can theoretically push your main base from their 3rd with the Broodlords being safely out of reach of Marines. This map kind of known for being difficult to get a 4th, but with these spawns, I think that it'd be pretty safe for Prplppleatr to take the gold base, which actually looks like he's going to do, or the base to the top right, but we do actually have the drone going there to take that, so...
Here comes a drop onto the 3rd base for Rowrin. The Spore Crawlers, of course, just barely not done in time. That Spine Crawler here taking some damage and going down. The army of Prplppleatr is still sitting in the middle here. He's actually busy dealing with a medevac and some Marines that were trying to clear up some creep. The Spore Crawlers do go down, so the medevacs are still alive. That means that Rowrin can basically escape here at any time. In come the Infestors. They got some energy. Will they get the Fungals? Yes, they will. Nice Marauder wall there by Rowrin, but in the end, the Fungals and the Zergans will clean everything up, and only a handful, maybe 4 or 5 drones there were killed, Nathanius.
Yeah, really, at this point in the game, as you have more drones, individual drones become less important. So killing about 5 there, I mean, draws the attention over, it pulls the army, but wasn't really able to do any really big damage with the attention that he was able to take from Prplppleatr on his army. We do have, however, he has managed to establish the 3rd base, is getting those additional starports that we saw in the last game, and is throwing down a lot more barracks, as well as a 4th command center.
Yeah, so he's getting himself ready here for the late game, but it once again feels like he's just a step behind his opponent here, because his opponent has that hive done, the spires up. We'll probably see a greater spire here coming any second, but even before then, I mean, we see tons of banelings here getting morphed for Prplppleatr. He's got even more infestors on the way. Now he's got 10 of them out total. That's going to be so many Fungals here that even if Rowrin does split his army up well, the Fungals will still be able to lock everything down, allowing the Zergans to get maximum surface area and really be super effective. Now we do have a bit of a drop coming into towards the 3rd once again, but the Spore Crawlers did kill off the medevac, and only a couple of Marines and Marauders got out. So once again, not much damage done here by Rowrin.
Yeah, just another handful of drones, and we have the Greater Spire coming in, but like you said, the army composition that Prplppleatr has gone for 100% fully counters what Rowrin's doing, especially without the combat shield. Once these Banelings get +3, they're going to be able to, they almost pretty much one-shot the Marines, an easy cleanup for the Fungals, and Infestors lock everything in place, Banelings splash everything. At that point, it doesn't really matter that you have Marauders, because there's so much AoE, everything just dies instantly anyway.
Yeah. I got nothing to add, Nathanius. Things are looking grim for Rowrin. He does have a slight upgrade advantage. He's got +3 on the way there. Or no, actually, he got his 2nd engineering bay there quite late, so he's only on +1 armor here still. 4th base of Rowrin is under attack. We see he's actually putting just a positional planetary fortress there in the middle, but it's going to actually get focus fire down there. Nice control by Prplppleatr, not using the Banelings on the command center. In they come, though, with the fungal growth, cleaning up so many Marines. Prplppleatr here is destroying Rowrin's army, and we see here Roaches continuing to push in. Zerglings are engaging. Most of the Banelings have gone. We need to see some more Fungals there, as the Marines and Marauders are continuing to kite the army here of Prplppleatr. But meanwhile, he was just clearing up supply there, Nathanius, because he's got 10 Corruptors that just popped out, and they're about to get turned into Broodlords. He just needed a bit of supply. Thought he'd trade armies there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should have just left the Roaches there to get cleaned up. He could have thrown more Fungals towards the Marines, but that would have left him very he wouldn't have had any energy to deal with the Vikings. So, I mean, at first I was like, maybe Fungal the Marauders and try to clean up the rest of the army, but with these Broodlords coming in now, Prplppleatr you really couldn't be in a better spot.
No, he's really in a solid spot right now, and I mean, I agree. He could have left the Roaches there to die. What was crucial was that he get the Infestors away, and he was able to do that. So now he's got that death composition, the one that everyone loves to talk about, in a negative fashion mostly. It is the Infestor Broodlord Corruptor.
Yeah, we had another drop over the third. Managed to kill Spinecrawler. Nothing really serious. Didn't really do any damage. But now Rowrin's just kind of locked into this awkward position. Still gotta say, no combat shield. So the Banelings that are now being morphed in are still going to be super effective versus these Marines. No +3 attack on the way yet, unfortunately. But now the Broodlords are coming, and now it's time.
So it begins. And the Corruptors here are engaging with those Vikings. Infestors getting some huge fun growth there on all of the bio and on the Vikings. The Corruptors will be able to clean everything up. Zerglings, Banelings, Broodlords, Broodlings, Corruptors, Fungals, everything crashing down. Rowrin gives the GG. Prplppleatr takes it 2-1.
And that was that's sort of like a painful thing to watch as the Terran player. When you go bio, we had a lot of multi-prong harass by Rowrin, and he really kept Prplppleatr on his toes like the whole game long. We actually, at the end of the game, he had a drop by the top right base of Prplppleatr that was building, but he just really wasn't able to do enough damage with all of that multi-prong harass. And Prplppleatr, going for the Infestor play, being very defensive, managed to just survive long enough to get to his Broodlord Infestor composition, and at that point, bio isn't going to be enough.
Yeah, I really felt that he needed to get going on some multiple drops. You know, he had drops going towards that third base, and you said at the end he had a drop going towards that top right, but that was really the first drop we saw going towards that top right area, towards the main, for quite a while. And so I think with a bit more multi-pronged play, Prplppleatr, we've seen him have a bit of that 1A syndrome, sending all of his army to just one drop. He could have done a lot more damage, because in the end, he was just biding his time. He was just keeping Prplppleatr busy, but he was okay with that because he was teching up, continuing to drone up, and he wanted to waste time. He wanted to get to that late game army. So anyways, with that being said, guys, that's the end of our first series. We're going to take a quick little 2-minute break here, and we're going to be back with the second series of the day.